Old people without money are just in the way. My sister uttered these cruel words as she looked at our elderly mother. How could she say such cold things to her own mother? I was trembling with anger. I wasn't after Dad's inheritance or anything, so I was upset, but it was still bearable. But then my sister and her husband kicked our mother out of the house. I glared at them, but they just smiled smugly. Nothing I said seemed to get through to them. As I wondered what to do, Mom said, "It's all right," and left the room. I followed my mother, slightly bewildered. After walking some distance from the house, she stopped, laughed, and said cheerfully, "Those two are finished now." I didn't understand and asked, "What?" My name is Kate. I'm 52 years old. I've never married, but I have no regrets about that. Having worked full-time at a local company, I should have a stable life in my old age. My mother's name is Tiffany. She's 79. She and my father were a famously loving couple in the neighborhood. But then my father passed away. He was 89. The one after his inheritance was my sister, Sarah. She had a son with her husband, who's already an adult, but quite a troublemaker. Her husband is also a piece of work, greedy for money. He's pretentious, always saying, "Having nice things is a secret to being a good person." They spend recklessly, so they're always short on money. A pair indeed. My sister has always been greedy and ostentatious. I remember back in high school, she would beg our mother for the latest trend. Of course, Mom refused. Unsatisfied, my sister stole money from my mom's purse. At first, Mom couldn't believe it. She noticed money missing without her knowledge and decided to leave her wallet on the desk, watching from a hiding place. As expected, my sister took the money. Mom confronted her immediately, but my sister, unashamed, yelled, "It wasn't me. It's the first time. It's always Kate who does it." Mom, furious, scolded her, but seemed relieved that she hadn't stolen from someone else. My sister's husband thought the same way, keeping up appearances while their money dwindled. They seemed eager to lavish their son with money. Apparently, my sister and her husband went to my parents and repeatedly asked for money. They went to our parents multiple times for money. Confronting them, they said, "We want to properly educate our son. It's rare for kids not to go to tutoring these days. Think of it as an investment. Can't you help with like $50 a month? If you won't help, then forget about us caring for you in your old age. This is an investment. Give my eldest son more than $50 now, and you won't have to worry about your future care. Think about it." Our parents never planned to rely on anyone for care. Still, they worried about my future. We're fine, but what about Kate? My sister and her husband's eyes lit up like they found prey. "Right. We can say it's for Kate. Our eldest son will take care of Kate in her old age. If you think of it as investing in our son, $50 or $90 should be manageable, right?" Using the word care as a shield, they extracted a considerable amount of money from our parents. Thus, they kept spending our parents' money. Mom and Dad lived modestly on their pensions, so life must have been tough. Then, their grandson got a job and moved to another state. I had a feeling he might never return. If that happened, our parents would have wasted their money. The talks of tuition fees ended, and next they asked for money for their own living expenses. "Our son is grown up and left, but his education cost a lot, and we're broke. Can't you keep helping us? The usual $90 will do. Kate's unmarried and unreliable. It's always better to have a man around. Don't worry if anything happens to you, Dad. We'll be there in no time." Our parents realized they were being drained of their money. Yet they couldn't oppose my sister and her husband. They were smooth talkers, claiming to help, saying it was an investment for emergencies, even promising to take care of me. Then, our father passed away. Maybe it was the stress. He had become so thin, barely resembling his younger self. When my sister and her husband informed us of Dad's death, she called immediately. "Hey, what about the inheritance?" Her first words being about the inheritance was embarrassingly typical of my sister. "Inheritance? Dad just passed away. It's not the time to talk about that." My sister cut me off before I could say more. "I'll be there soon. Mom's there, right?" I was appalled by my sister and her husband, who seemed to care about nothing but money. Then, even before the funeral was over, She started asking about the inheritance. She turned to Mom and said, "Mom, you're not going to take all the inheritance, right? You'll need care soon, you know. Care takes money and strength. And you know a woman's strength is not enough for that, right?" I could hardly comprehend what she was saying. Think about it. Would any mother-in-law be comfortable showing her bare skin to a son-in-law she barely knew? It seemed like my sister just wanted to complain, intimidate Mom, and snatch the inheritance. And what about Kate? What will ever happen to her if she's left alone? Don't we sisters need to join forces sometimes? Mom, you wouldn't be able to bear it if Kate spent her life alone, right? How greedy can a person be? I didn't even want to think of her as my sister anymore. I wondered how Mom would respond to her demand for the inheritance. Mom said, "All right, yes, that makes sense. I might need you and your husband's care, so I'll renounce Dad's inheritance. That's fine, right?" But it wasn't fine. I tried to interrupt Mom. "But Mom, can we trust this woman to keep her word?" Mom gestured for me to be quiet, and then turned to me. "Listen to what Sarah says. You should renounce the inheritance too, all right?" Mom was so adamant that I could only nod. It took us several days to go through the renunciation process, which was more complicated than expected. My sister frequently called. "How's the renunciation going? Hurry it up. Is Mom done? Let me know when it's finished." Frustrated by my sister's greed, I still wanted to respect Mom's wishes and proceeded with the process. When the renunciation was completed, we invited my sister and her husband over. Mom announced that we had both renounced everything. My sister and her husband laughed triumphantly. "Looking at our elderly mother," my sister said. "Old people without money are just in the way." I was stunned, unable to comprehend her words. "What? What did you say?" I asked again. My sister laughed. "I said, old people without money are just in the way. You're useless now, Mom. Get it? This house is ours now. It's mine, and yet there's someone here who I haven't allowed to stay." How twisted can someone be to say such horrible things to their own mother? "Right? It's odd for Mom to keep living here since it's our house now. If you want to stay, you'll have to pay rent and living expenses. Is that okay?" Of course it wasn't okay, and this house held sentimental value for Mom. She couldn't just leave because she was told to. And now, after renouncing the inheritance, they were trying to evict the previous residents. Unforgivable. But we had indeed renounced everything. Trembling, Mom said, "It's okay. I'll leave. Everything in this house is yours now, so do what you want with it. All I'm taking is this small bag. I won't be coming back to this house. Goodbye." My sister and her husband smirked vilely. Angry, yet I had to follow Mom. I was a little bewildered as I followed her. Even after leaving the house, my sister and her husband didn't follow. Once we were far enough away, Mom suddenly stopped and laughed triumphantly. Why was she laughing? Had she gone mad? It was no surprise. She had been used by her own daughter, and now had her home taken away. Then Mom said, "Those two are finished now," almost happily. I was confused and could only ask, "What?" I had moved out as soon as I started working. Then, when I turned 35, I had already bought a condominium. I thought I might never marry. Where would Mom go? I couldn't leave my elderly mother alone, so I brought her to my condo. She kept saying, "Thank you, I'm sorry." Not out of sadness, but out of a sense of guilt towards me. But I knew she must have been hurt. I resolved to live happily with her from now on. Once we got to the condo, Mom started to open up. "I wonder why sisters turned out so differently. I knew she was greedy, but not to this extent. How much money will satisfy her? For the education of her son, I've given about $10,000 each year for 15 years. That's $150,000 in total. We weren't really expecting any care for ourselves." "Really? Was it for me?" Mom nodded guiltily. It seemed she had been considering my future, fearing I'd be alone. I'm convinced that my sister and her husband never intended to care for our parents or me. Yet Mom hoped against hope in my sister, but I doubt they ever planned to provide care. Thankfully, Dad didn't need much care before he passed. It must have worked out well for Sarah. Mom smiled again. I wondered what her smile meant. "Yes, Now it's clear she doesn't care about me or you. She's happy with Dad's inheritance. But she was a bit naive, I think." "Naive?" I asked. Mom didn't say it outright. "You're a kind child," she murmured softly. Silence fell between us again. Then she asked, "Did you want the inheritance?" I never counted on it. I wasn't caring for Dad just for the inheritance. It was brief, but Mom and I were the ones who looked after him. My sister insisted on male help for bathing and toileting, but Mom and I managed his care. I nursed him purely out of gratitude, not expecting anything in return. And I planned to do the same for Mom without my sister's help. It was out of genuine love for them. "Mom, why don't you live here?" I was getting tired of living alone anyway. Mom was tearful this time. She kept thanking me, and then said something mysterious. "Just wait a few months. I can't say it now. After a few months, I'll tell you everything. No need for you to suffer or be sad anymore. We can't go back now. Can you not ask anything until then?" I was clueless, but I realized Mom had something in mind. But she didn't want to talk about my sister or the inheritance for a while, so I simply agreed. Mom smiled like a young girl. I wondered why she said a few months, but I knew not to ask if she didn't want to say. I tried to forget about my sister completely. We decided to attend a hula dance class on a weekday Tuesday. "Does this outfit look silly?" Mom asked. She was embarrassed, but also seemed very happy. I wanted Mom to experience as many joys as possible while she's alive. Gradually, she became more relaxed and smiled more. Then a few months passed. I had almost forgotten about waiting for a few months. Mom remembered. She was in a good mood in the morning. "It's been a few months." "Yes, indeed. These few months changed our lives." "Is that what you meant?" Then Mom shared a shocking revelation. "After a certain period, you can't renounce your inheritance anymore." "Renounce the inheritance? What does that mean? Mom and I have already renounced the property. But now this talk of renouncing again? We've already renounced our inheritance, right?" "It's not about us. It's about Sarah. Sarah can't renounce the inheritance anymore." I was confused. Why would Sarah renounce the inheritance? Mom laughed triumphantly. "Because there was no inheritance, only debts. That couple inherited nothing but debt." What a turn of events. Dad had no property, only liabilities, and Mom and I had renounced it, meaning we escaped the debt. On the other hand, my sister and her husband inherited the property, or rather, the debt. "I'm sorry, I wanted to tell you more, but I thought you would be hurt if you knew the truth. And maybe you would tell Sarah. I wanted to be the only bad person, so I kept it from you." I was stunned. Mom had been cunningly waiting for her chance all by herself. Indeed, if I had known about my sister inheriting the debt, I might have told her. Mom had foreseen this and kept it from me. "This plan was actually Dad's idea. He gradually transferred his savings to my bank account. Of course, he made a debt, but it was necessary." "Debt? What do you mean?" I was puzzled. Mom continued. "He bought several pieces of land in remote places, some needing immediate repair. He wanted Sarah to inherit all that." Mom said they left some savings, so it wouldn't be obvious to my sister. But in the end, it amounted to $200,000 debt. "Did you know you can't inherit savings alone? It's either inherit the debt too, or renounce everything. Those are the only choices. Foolish kids." Mom was almost gleeful. Hearing Dad's plan and seeing Mom's resolve, I realized how much she despised my sister. "Mom, maybe I would have told Sarah if I knew, but thinking about her situation now, I can't help but smile. I guess I was that angry too. My sister and her husband ended up with a $200,000 debt. Some of the properties required immediate repairs, adding to the debt. There's a set period for renouncing inheritance. They missed it, so they can't renounce now. Blinded by the thought of $100,000, they ended up with a huge debt. They would probably sell the rural land soon, but it would sell for much less than they bought it for. Their marriage might even suffer due to debt. Eventually, my sister realized the debt and called in panic. "Help me, the debt is huge." I listened as she ranted. "The debt is huge. It's infuriating, Mom. You knew, right? You're responsible too. Pay off my debt now. We're family." Her selfishness was astounding. Inheriting means you also inherit the debt. I didn't know that. I only wanted the property, not the debt. You take it. Take only the debt? How selfish. You inherited both. It's your debt, not mine or Mom's. Don't call us anymore. We're not even family. She was yelling something over the phone. All her demands were unreasonable. She kept saying things like, as a family, you should inherit the debt, cancel the renunciation, and other nonsensical demands. I'm hanging up. Maybe you should discuss with your family, your husband and son, though I can guess what they'll think of you. And I hung up. I felt clear and refreshed for the first time in a while. I thought for sure my sister and her husband would divorce, and as it turns out, my sister did get divorced. It seems my sister's husband wants the divorce, not her. As I suspected, he's greedy and likely sees no point in being married to my sister, who now has debt. However, they can't divorce immediately. With a sudden burden of $200,000 debt, they need to settle everything before divorcing. The house they lived in was sold. My sister and her husband, always relying on our parents' money, never saved anything. And counting on Dad's inheritance, they probably can't clear the debt. What awaits my sister is the sole option of working diligently to pay off the debt. She insists she won't divorce. It seems less out of love for her husband and more because she can't bear the thought of him escaping the debt while leaving her alone. It sounds just like something my sister would think. It's almost pitiable. I continued to live in the condo with Mom. It appears Mom had transferred money into her own bank account and isn't struggling financially. She gives me about $70 a month for expenses. I tried to refuse it multiple times, but Mom insists and says she'll keep offering until I accept, so I reluctantly take the $70. Despite receiving this money, I'm not spending it recklessly. You never know when Mom or I might need it, so I'm saving carefully. The hula dancing we started as a mother and daughter activity turned out to be more enjoyable than expected. Above all, seeing Mom laugh and enjoy herself makes me feel this life isn't